Hi peeps! Today I'm going to share my recovery experience with you because I got asked whether I could do a video on my recovery experience and give you some tips on recovery, and I was like, sure, whatever. So I asked you on Instagram whether you would want to see a video like that and like what topics I should talk about and what I should give tips on, and you were super excited and like a lot of topics to talk about. So that's what I'm gonna do today. Today's video is just going to be my recovery experience, as making my recovery experience and my tips one video would make a 45-minute long video, and that's not ideal, so it's just going to be one video of my recovery experience, and then very soon there's going to be a second video with my tips on recovery from a restrictive eating disorder. I cut my hair. Do you like it? Do you like it? Without further ado, let's get started. So I guess we'll start at the beginning, right? The beginning of my road to recovery, I guess, was April of 2015. At the time I was fairly deep into my eating disorder. I was still like eating some foods, but I was having a really hard time doing, and I already lost quite a bit of weight. In April of 2015 I was on a school trip with my class, and like I said, I was fairly deep into my eating disorder, but I hadn't told anyone about it yet. So I couldn't talk to anyone about how hard of a time I was having during that school trip, because we were eating loads of like really scary food for me at the time. So I was like having breakdowns a few times a day. Then on like the third evening we went to McDonald's for dinner after a long day of walking and stuff, and I was contemplating what I should get, because I knew that if I would get a salad without a dressing, which I know has the least calories, would raise suspicion, because my friends would be like, what are you doing? Why aren't you having a burger? Everyone's having a burger. Why aren't you having a burger? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? So I was like, well, I'll just get whatever my friend is getting then. So I did, and all hell broke loose. I had a panic attack, I cried, I screamed, and my friends were obviously like, what's going on? What's going on? Can we do something? I was like, no, don't worry, I'm fine. And they were like, you're not there. Like, they wanted to talk to me, but I couldn't. I was so panicking so much and crying, and you just couldn't talk to me because I'd probably just hit you and cry. So the next day my friend got up to me and like asked me if we could talk about it, and then I talked about it with like 2 more friends or something, and I told them that I thought I had an eating disorder, and they were like, well shit, like it explained a lot of things, because I wasn't eating like I used to. So they were like, well, I'm really happy you told us, but you have to tell your parents as well, and if you're not going to do it, we are. And I was like, well, then I really have to tell my parents, because I'm not going to let my friends bring my parents a message like that. Right? Like, I'm not going to let my friends tell my parents that I am not doing well. Like, no, I'm not going to let my friends do that. Like, the second day I got home was on Sunday, and I told my parents, like I said that with my parents, and I told them that I was having a really hard time with eating and that I thought I had an eating disorder. And they didn't really react as shocked as I thought they would, because they told me that they already suspected something, but they were like, well, maybe it's just like a teen thing because it's April, maybe you just wanted to like tone up a bit for summer. Like, they didn't really, like they saw that I started eating less and that I lost weight, but they were like, well, maybe it's just a phase or a teen thing, you know. Well, next morning on Monday we went to my GP and I got an ECG, my blood was tested, and luckily all those things were fine, so it was nice, because if that would have been fucked up as well, that would just not be nice, no. And my GP referred me to the GGZ, which is the Dutch Mental Health Services thingy, and my intake to GGZ wasn't until September of 2015, so from April to September, which is 5 months, I lost more weight. And then when summer break started, which is like July, my mom was like, well, this is not going well. You're way too skinny you're way too thin, we need to do something before you get your intake, because otherwise we'll just end up in hospital and that's not what we want. So I agreed with my mom and we decided that I'd had to gain a few pounds before the end of summer. I was like, okay. I was super motivated at the time, so I was like, sure, I can do that, that's not too much. And then I came back home from holiday at the end of summer and I'd gained the weight and I freaked out because I was like, well, the people at the GGZ will just think I'm fake. So I lost weight again. Just all the way gone. Which wasn't a fun time because my parents were like, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? We agreed on you getting a few pounds before intake at the GGZ and then you just go and lose it all. What is wrong with you? And I was like, let me live. But then the intake happened and it was all fine. And a few weeks after the intake, my treatment started, I guess. And I had weekly appointments with my dietitian, weekly appointments with my psychologist, and monthly appointments with my pediatrician. And between those appointments, I also had some evaluations with my entire team on like how things were going and all that jazz. First of all, my psychologist was the nicest person ever. I feel like she helped me a lot with my recovery because I'd always like bottled up my feelings and I never thought really open up about them, so my mind was a whirlpool of negative thoughts. Since I started talking with my psychologist every week, all those thoughts were finally, like, I finally opened up about those thoughts and my mind became clearer and clearer, and that was, I think, really helpful for my recovery. Okay, so the first few like months, weeks of my treatment, it was really hard for me to accept the help because I was like, well, there's skinnier people who need help. There's people in hospital who need help, and I'm just not ill enough. I'm not skinny enough, so I don't need help. I've never been hospitalized. I've never been put in patient. I'm not ill. I don't need help. And it took me quite some time to get rid of that thought. Seeing everyone in hospital or in a clinic made me feel really fake. Like, what's kind of a competition on Instagram, like who'd been the most times inpatient or whatever, and that is just really fucked up. And it made me like sink even deeper into my ID, like not necessarily regarding my weight, but regarding my mental health, because like the thoughts in my head, because they became more and more negative, and I just didn't think I deserved recovery. Like I said, with the help of my amazing psychologist, I finally got rid of those thoughts, and then the appointments/conversations really began to help me. At first, I barely gained any weight. It was like 0.2 kilos a week, or I'd even lose some weight, whereas I was supposed to gain at least half a kilo a week. So as you can tell, that wasn't really following the plan, if you get me. So it wasn't really going as planned. And it wasn't until like the holidays, Christmas, whatever, that I really started gaining weight, because at the time I was doing quite a lot of exercise, so of course I wasn't gaining weight, duh. And then the exercise was cut off and I started gaining weight with the help of my dietitian. And it was really hard for me because, like I said, I never really had to deal with gaining the amount of weight that I had to, and all of a sudden I started gaining 0.5, 0.6, 0.7 kilos a week, and I freaked out. I shat myself, no, that's not true, but I was freaking crying during every appointment with my dietitian, and it was just not a fun time. But with the help of my dietitian, who constantly was there for me and helped me, and I could always like email her or something, and she helped me to realize that it was necessary for me to gain weight, and that the fact that I was now gaining a lot more than I used to wasn't a bad thing. because like I had to make up for the months before that I wasn't gaining a lot of weight. So finally, after a few months, I got my shits together, and I actually didn't really care. Started to care less about the number on the scale. That was until the point that I reached my pre-eating disorder weight, my pre-ED weight. And I'm not going to mention that number because that's just unnecessary. But I was like, well, I can't go further than this, because everyone I know with an eating disorder just went back to their pre-ED weight after their eating disorder. So why would I have to gain more? And like I discussed that with my dietitian, and we were like, well, have I grown since before my ED? And I was like, well, yeah, like 10 kilos, 10 centimeters or something. So would it be normal to weigh the exact same as like 2 years ago while having grown 10 centimeters? No, that would be weird. That would just not look normal. So why would I think that I had to weigh the same weight? That just would be weird. So I finally saw for myself that I had to gain more. That the weight that I was at that moment wasn't the right weight for my body. So after a few months after that realization, I became weight restored, which is great. I love it. I love being weight restored, honestly. And then my dietitian told me that I could start maintaining, and I didn't. I kept on gaining weight, which was scaring, really. I was so scared that I was going to turn into a whale, that I was just going to end up like on my 600-pound life, you know, the TLC series. I was convinced that I was going to end up there, which of course wasn't going to happen, but I just didn't think about that. I just convinced myself that I was going to end up there because I was going to keep on gaining and turn into a whale, and no. Then my dietitian was like, girl, your body is really smart. Your body is not going to make you gain that much when you eat the right amount for your body and when you exercise that much like you do right now. So you're not going to end up on my 600-pound life. And like, I always trusted my dietitian because I was like, well, she studied for this shit, I haven't, so she must know what she's talking about, and my opinion on this thing is irrelevant because I don't know that much about it. So I always trusted her, really. So when she said that like I wouldn't end up like a whale, I was like, okay, if she says that, then that's true. I'm not going to end up on my 600-pound life. I'm going to be fine. And I was. Like a few weeks later, I maintained. I'm still maintaining, and life's great. I feel great. Of course, I still have days that I'm not really that fond of my body, that I'm like, no. But then I just think about what my body's been through, and I'm like, well, I'm pretty proud of it. It's been through hell and back, and it still works fine. Go my body. When I look back on this, I noticed that I barely struggled with following my meal plan. Whereas a lot of people in the eating disorder recovery community, that is a mouthful, they do or did really struggle with following their meal plan. And I guess that is because I always completely trusted my dietitian. Because the healthy, rational part of me knew that like she'd studied for it and she knew what she was on about. So she wouldn't make me eat excessive amounts of food. So I always just ate whatever she told me to eat. Like, of course, I had loads of days that I didn't want to eat at all. Like those days, you know, those bad body image kind of days, I had those a lot, trust me. And those were the days that I didn't want to eat at all. And I still did, because I knew that I wanted to recover. And to recover, I knew that I had to gain weight. And to gain weight, I knew that I had to eat. So I ate. I guess that part isn't really that inspirational, because I don't really have like anything heroic to talk about. I didn't really do anything special, I just ate. Like I said, weight gain wasn't really happening in the beginning. I was still doing quite a lot of exercise because like I was used to it. It wasn't at all to compensate the fact that I was eating more. No, I was just used to the fact that I was always like a really active girl. I biked to school every day, which is 1.5 hours in total. I had 3 2-hour gymnastic practices a week, I'm sorry. Plus like PE in school, I was just a very active girl. So of course I wasn't gaining a lot of weight, like duh. But around the holidays, like I said, this all got cut off and I started gaining, which wasn't fun at all. It was a horrible time. I'm going to be honest with you here, it was a horrible time. I felt disgusting, fat, ugly 99% of the time, which wasn't ideal when you still have to gain weight. I wore loads of jumpers to hide my body, and in the mirror in my room, which is like quite tall, I flipped it around or like put a blanket over it so I couldn't see my reflection every time, because it's like next to my door, so every time I walked out of my room or into my room I would see myself in my reflection in the mirror. Like on one side I was constantly checking myself in reflections and mirrors or windows or whatever, because I wanted to check if I hadn't gotten any bigger. I was constantly checking on my body to see if it changed. And on the other side, I didn't want to see my body because I would constantly be reminded of the fact that I'd already gained a significant amount of weight and that I felt like a big blob of fat. It was a constant battle in my mind between wanting to see if my body had changed and not wanting to face the fact that I'd gained weight. And I feel like this sounds really weird right now, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. And after about 9 months of constant battle, I became weight restored finally. I let go of my meal plan, ate whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and like I said in my dietitian part, at first I kept on gaining, but now I'm maintaining, and I feel great about my body. Great, just great. And of course there are days that I miss my old body. But on those days I ask myself, do I really miss my body or do I miss the idea of it? Because being a size 0 and tall may seem like a dream. Because I got a lot of comments saying, you should be a model, oh my god, be a model. And I was like, no. In reality, being a size 0 was a nightmare. All my clothes looked really shitty because they just didn't fit me. Because they fit me, but it didn't look good on me because I just looked like a walking skeleton. So that wasn't really a fun time. And like I'm not going to go too much into detail about how miserable I was because that's just unnecessary and not going to help anyone. But I'm going to promise you that I will never go back to the time where I was too scared to drink a glass of water because I convinced myself I'd gain from it. Never. So, hope this video helped you in some way, or maybe I don't know, inspired you or just entertained you really. Maybe you got something out of it. I just hope I didn't make this video for nothing. Like I said in the beginning, I'm going to make a video on my anorexia recovery tips very soon, so stay tuned for that. And please subscribe to my channel. The button is down here, I think. And give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and leave a comment down below. And I hope you have a great day, and if you feel shitty, just watch some animal videos or look up pictures of kittens or puppies because they're a great source of entertainment. Plus, listen to some happy music. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel. I'll put it on public, and it's with the music that makes me happy. And I hope it makes you happy too. Have a good day. Love you!